Okay, so we're learning Likkutei Sichot, Volume 2, and at the end there are Hosafos, addendums. In the Hebrew it's page 300. It's a very short thing for Massei, and we're doing it a little out of order because we don't have our Volume 4 with us today. Says the Rebbe, Duvar pam b'archava bidvar masot hanimnim b'parshatenu. This is from 1956. So a lot of people didn't know back then about the Baal Shem Tov's explanation that the 42 Massaot, 42 journeys that they had that are described in Parshas Massei in the beginning, they, according to the Baal Shem Tov, they correspond to 42 journeys that every person makes in life. And it's very interesting because is one of the places where you see the difference between the Arizal and between Chassidus. By the Ari, he explained that each one of these journeys is another holy name of God. Meaning he saw it as divinity, as describing divinity. And the Baal Shem Tov switches this to be something that represents the soul. That's the main difference between Chassidus and Kabbalah. The Kabbalah will mostly focus on God. And Chassidus focuses mainly on man, and specifically on man's psychological experience. So this is definitely a very powerful switch that the Baal Shem Tov made and added to the way that the Pnimius Torah was understood. So it says the Rebbe, we've spoken in the past in length about the journeys that are enumerated in our Parsha, from Yitzias Mitzrayim ad Yarden Yericho until they came to the banks of the Jordan River in front of Jericho. שהם מכוונים לכל העניינים הצריכים לעבור עולם ישראל עד ביאת המשיח. And they also correspond not just to the individual, but in this case he's going to be speaking not about the individual, but about the general story of the Jewish people. It's already about the Jewish people. It's the journeys of Jewish people. So now he says it's from the beginnings until the coming of Mashiach. So it's like taking the those 40 years and expanding them over 3,500 years. כפי שכתוב בספרי קבלה וכמאמר הבעל שם טוב, 3,700 years. כפי שכתוב בספרי קבלה וכמאמר הבעל שם טוב, שידע את עניין המסעות, יודע באיזה מסע הוא עומד, ואת אשר עליו לעבור, כמה ואילו מסעות עד ביאת המשיח. As it says in the books of Kabbalah. So now he says this is also in the books of Kabbalah. I don't know what he's referring to, and they don't have a footnote here. Where in Kabbalah does it mention that this corresponds to the individual? The Baal Shem Tov says that one who knows the issue of the journeys can know in what journey he's standing and what he has to do in order to succeed, and how many journeys are left until the coming of Mashiach. So this Baal Shem Tov had himself when he was trying to make it to Eretz Yisrael, and he got shipwrecked and then taken hostage, taken captive. So it says that then his teacher Achia Shiloni came to him and revealed to him what journey he was on and and he gave him hope because there's the next journey. There's something new that will come after that. כללית מהווים כל המסעות תהליך של עליות. In general, all the journeys are ones of ascent. אלה מסעי בני ישראל אשר יצאו מארץ מצרים. Because it says all the journeys are the departure from Egypt. What does that mean? In the plural, it doesn't say these are the journeys. This is the journey of the Jewish people who left Egypt. Because the first journey was the only one where they left Egypt. It says all the journeys are leaving Egypt. למרות שלכאורה היה רק מסע אחד ממצרים, שלפי שכל מסע הוא יציאה ממצרים, because every journey is an exit from Egypt, from the straits of the previous journey, של אותה שעה אל המרחב של אותה שעה, from the straits in that particular journey to the widening and the opening up of life that comes at the end of the journey. There are many levels. And so, like we said, the previous journey where you left off, even though it might have been an elevation already, relative to where you're going next, it's straits.
It has nothing tighter, which is one of the journeys, straits compared to the complaining the water drinking in the middle.
No. How?
I don't know.
Because it could be that the water can symbolize that the person doesn't feel any thirst. So you receive the Torah, and then you feel, everything's under my belt. I have everything. I'm not thirsty for anything. I don't need anything. So relative to your power of will, your drive to expand, to do more, it could be that receiving the Torah is a bad thing. It's not absolutely bad for sure, but it's relatively negative because now you feel that you have everything you need. That's not life. Life by definition is that if he has 100, he wants 200. So the fact that you said that afterwards they felt thirst, so that can be interpreted as an opening up. In the beginning it looks like the thirst is physical, but really it's a spiritual thirst. I have a friend who you know, who you just inquired about yesterday, if he's coming back already or not, and he's not coming back. No. In any case, he doesn't know. And in any case, he was doing, at some point he told me, I don't feel like I have any willpower. Like I don't want anything. Like I've succumbed to my feelings of this is it. And so he started fasting. And he said he fasted a lot, and he said within 2 weeks everything changed. Because you get fat, and you feel like you don't need anything, you don't want anything, and it affects your psyche also. And so your drive falls. He said just the fact that he fasted for 2 weeks, he only drank or something like that. He said it built in him this tremendous drive, this tremendous motivation to achieve, even though he was just fasting physically. So it's a trick that people need to know, that when you feel that you're resting on laurels, or you just feel in general lethargic, like I have no drive, I don't know what I want to do next. And that's a story with David that we've talked about many times. When he was 62 or 63 probably, 7 years before he passed away, he suddenly was lethargic, and nothing could get him interested in ruling again. So Hashem had to do something terrible. What was the terrible thing? That Adoniah decided that he's becoming the king. You could say, how is this David going up? He was a king, and now he's being forced to fight his son. It's not of Shalom, but it's a Mored B'Malchut. He's somebody who's saying, yes, I'm going to be the king now, even though my father's alive. But that woke him up. How did it wake him up? Then everybody came to him and said, are you allowing this? What is this? What are you doing? And then Bathsheba says an incredible phrase. We all remember Yechi Adoni HaMelech David Leolam. But there's another phrase she says there. She says, Ve'inei einei kol Yisrael nesuot el Adoni HaMelech. She says, the eyes of all of Israel are upon you, to see what you'll say. And that suddenly wakes him up. So he's like, what do you mean the eyes of all of Israel? Meaning they need me to show them the way. And that was exactly what he needed to wake up, that he has this this difficulty now, that he has to deal with Adoniah, and his wife Bathsheba is telling him that the eyes of everyone are upon you to see what you'll do. And so it suddenly woke him up, and he was no longer lethargic. So on the face of it, it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of pain. But that's exactly what led to him opening himself up. So many times it seems to us that the next stage starts with the straight, but really that straight is just an echoing of the previous stage that we were in and we got stuck in. קיים הרי מספר ניגר של דרגות, זו שלגבי הפריקה, so we read this. וזה תוכן המסעות, and this is the content of the journeys, על האדם ללכת וללכת. בבחינת לאין ארוך, a person should always be progressing, moving forward, בבחינת לאין ארוך, and not just some kind of linear change. לאין ארוך means that it's exponential, that there's no commensurability, there's no way to compare what you're doing in the next stage to what you were doing before. As I heard from one Chacham once, there's no exchange rate. You can't exchange old, lirot in Israel for anything today. They're not worth anything. That's the way you need to see your life. That the previous stage had a lot of energy and a lot of good things, but they are incommensurable with what I'm doing now. What I'm doing now is at a completely different level. That's how you need to see it, and that's how you need to act. מבחינת לאין ארוך, ממצרים אל ארץ טובה ורחבה, שלפי מצבו הנוכחי לפחות, שזו עלייה שלא בהדרגה. Meaning this is an incommensurable advance forward. It's like it's a dilug. That's what it's called. Ein aroch is a word that comes from Kabbalah. It means that I can't compare what happens in the world of creation to what happens in the world of emanation. From Bria to Atzilus, it's a leap that is like...
Quantum.
They call it quantum, but quantum is the wrong word. I had a different word not long ago, and I told you, and I forgot what it is. But quantum leap means the same thing, but quantum is small. There's another word, I can't remember, it's a gap. There's a gap between the two places, the two rulers. They're like on completely different scales. So that's how you have to feel. כי הרי המלאכים קרויים עומדים, לפי שהתעלותם היא מדורגת, ואילו הנשמות ברידתן למטה קרויות מהלכים, כי הן מסוגלות ללכת שלא בהדרגה כלל. He says, why are the angels called walkers, standing, and the souls are called walking? He says, it's not enough to say because the souls are just moving. He says, it has to be that the souls are leaping. How do we know this? Because they're not called holchim, they're called mehalchim. It's the makor, it's a mehalech is more than holech. Holech just means he's walking along. He's walking along now. A mehalech is saying that he is, his adjective, his essence is to walk, which is a completely different level, because what you're saying is not that he's engaging in walking right now, but that his essence is that. And so that, and the meaning is, this is how he explains it in Likkutei Torah, is that they can walk by leaps and bounds. במסע אחד בלבד לצאת ממצרים. כן, נכון? במסע אחד בלבד לצאת ממצרים יצרים גבולות אל ארץ טובה ורחבה, עלייה מגבול אל בלי גבול. And so he continues to explain these. And he has so far three or four different ways of putting this. That to move does not mean just to continue doing what you've done, but rather it's even that they could have in one journey gone all the way from Egypt to the land of Israel, or as he says here, aliyah migvul el bli gvul, from being limited to being unlimited. And that is like saying going from something finite to going to something infinite. There's no way that you can get from finite to infinite by adding more. It's just a leap. It's just something completely different. ולמרות זאת אין להסתפק בכך, ויש להמשיך וללכת תוך ידיעה כי גם הדרגה הנוכחית ענה למצרים. And yet still, you have to understand that the previous stage that you were at, that too is limited. Compared to where you're going next, it's a limited stage. It's a limited reality. It's very hard for a person to understand this immediately, because he says, what do you mean? I've done everything. When he gets married, he thinks to be married now is the highest stage that I can be at. And he said, a few months later, or a year later, or however long it takes, he now has a child. And then and that's when you feel that, wait a minute, there are things in life that can propel me forward without any linear movement. It's just leaps and bounds. The problem is that, the question is, can you do it to yourself? Can it be that these journeys are not just things that you have to sit back and watch and be affected by, but can you yourself decide that what I'm doing is I'm moving forward? But I think that the Rebbe is saying here that whenever you first encounter the next stage, the next journey, at first it seems to you like it's in Egypt. At first it seems to you like it's something that is limiting your previous existence. But in truth, he says, it's up to you to transform it, to see that this is really a leap forward. Okay, in the beginning it's hard to see it. Okay. So you're leaving Mitzrayim, to a good and wide land, the Darga Na'alet, which symbolizes the greater state. Until you come to the plain before Jericho. Now Jericho, Yericho, literally means something that you smell. So what does this got to do with anything? Why is it called Yericho? So he says, to the coming of Mashiach, who is the one who judges by his sense of smell. Yeah, we talked about this in the past. Yeah, we have. So this is the Baal Shem Tov's take, which appears in Degel Machaneh Ephraim, about the journeys. And here the Rebbe added something that the Baal Shem Tov, as far as I remember, he didn't discuss, which is that each journey is an incommensurable leap forward. And you have to see it that way. That each one, and again, here he's focusing on this word. Massei b'nei Yisrael asher yatzu me'eretz Mitzrayim. These are the journeys of them coming out of Egypt, instead of saying it's the journey of them coming out of Egypt. Right. Adel's son. She had two sons. No, he wasn't his grandson. His great-grandson? I don't remember now. For some reason I don't. What? He's a grandson, but I don't remember how. He's not from Tzvi. Tzvi passed away and he didn't have children. So it must be from Odo. And if Odo had these two children, so how come who's Reb Baruch then? So yeah. So I guess he wasn't. Yeah, he was. So there's Degel Machaneh Ephraim and Baruch. Those were her children. And Reb Nachman was from a daughter that she had. From a daughter, not from a son. So it's a daughter, and then Reb Nachman.
If Baruch Hashem never give up, you see, without sorry about that. Don't be pessimistic.